Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the HR Spotlight series. I'm Rachel Reynosa, Senior Editor at People Matters, and I will be your host for today. This episode is brought to you by People Matters in association with SAP SuccessFactors. And today, we will be talking to experts about redefining employee experience and raising employee engagement. I'm excited to welcome our experts today. Jacely Voon, Chief People Officer, FUJIFILM Business Innovation Singapore. Jacely has extensive experience transforming HR across Asia Pacific, focusing on the new HR operating model. She drives change and engages with top business leaders on talent matters. Welcome to the session, Jacely.
Hi, thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having me. I'm so fortunate and glad and be honored to have this opportunity to share and to speak to everyone. Thank you.
We also have with us Sujay Bhat, HR Technology Strategy Advisor, SAP SuccessFactors. Sujay is an experienced leader with new business and account management experience in consulting, cloud, and SaaS-based IT services across Asia in countries like India, the Philippines, Singapore, and China. Hello, Sujay. Welcome to this session.
Hi, Rachel, and thanks for having us here. I should give you guys a heads up. There is construction going on next door, so you may hear some drilling noise. The benefits of working from home.
That's all good. A quick note to our attendees today: if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to use the chat window. We will bring them up towards the end of the session during the audience Q&A. So keep posting your questions for our speakers. Now, before we start the Q&A round, I do have one quick poll question for our attendees. I request everyone to go to www.menti.com, that's MENTI.com, and use the code 61896747 to participate. Now, our question is, which aspect of employee experience is most important to workers today? We'll give it about a minute for the audience responses to come in. And there we have it. We see work-life balance, belonging, transparency in organizational goals, motivation, inclusive, empathy, learning, optimism. Sujay, what are your takeaways from the results of our poll?
So I think the most critical aspect we see here in bright pink work-life balance. I think that's becoming a really important aspect in the overall employee experience within an organization. And how does the organization provide employees the flexibility to balance work in life? Because earlier at least a few years back, we were familiar with the term work life balance, but now it's become work life integration, because work is bleeding into life and life is bleeding into work. So how do you manage that, and how does your organization provide you the flexibility to manage that? So the other point that I see, which is also pretty important today, is transparency into a lot of the policies and decisions that impact employees. So that to a large extent defines employee experience with regards to areas such as progression, linkage of pay for performance. So very important observations in this word cloud.
Thank you, Sujay. So from work-life balance, we're now seeing work-life integration. Now, let's start our Q&A round. My first question is for you both. In the everyday scenarios you see at work, does engaging with your employees seamlessly translate into higher levels of job satisfaction? Let's start with Jacely.
Thank you. So, interesting. Yeah, interesting questions. I think when we talk about employee satisfactions, I think we are referring to the job characteristic and the environment factors that contribute to a general well-being or the happiness of the employee. So it is just about the having a good relationship with your manager or colleague, or being happy with your job, or it's more like uh, ex- extrinsic benefits. Whereas employee engagement, on the other hand, it is about level of commitment, motivations, and the passions of an employee towards an organization, and how they perceive the values and the goals. And it is all about um, being invested in the company success and the company's growth. So, well, satisfactions maybe enough just to sustain an employee in their job for like several years, or maybe like 7 or 8 years. But we're also engagement in the job itself. It will help employee to reach their full potential, especially like of course, like once employee reach the full potential, it will subsequently enables the growth of an organization. So only when your workforce is satisfied and engaged, you can sustain the productivities levels and have a longer run of success. So if we have to define the satisfactions or engagement, we would say that satisfaction is the feeling of one get from the basic desire fulfillment. Like for example, if your salary or your financial needs, and if you're comfortable with your jobs and your work environment, there's no pressure, there's no need for you to go beyond what you can deliver. Whereas the engagement is the sense of close needed connections of the employee personal values with the employees, with the company's values, and also the organization. So when this link, the cultures and values, or the goals alignments has met, the employees itself, they will feel motivated, and they will put extra efforts and be more enthusiastic with their jobs. So a satisfied employee is more likely to stay for a certain period of time because they feel comfortable, you know. But that doesn't mean they will give extra miles and give a very short for every single moment that they are working there. So in summary, we often see that job satisfaction is only related to the pay, benefit, and job securities. So engagement level will go beyond that. So it will influence how it comes with an influence by the manager as well, like how they drive the employee to feel more engaged beyond just with the job itself, but the environment to the managers and the commitment, and making the whole holistic view of the belonging is there. So that's why when early on we saw that the belonging is important. So the engagement itself, once they have the sense of belonging, they will go all out. So this is a very close key success factor for an employee engagement.
Thank you, Jacely. I like that point about belonging and engagement, inspiring employees to go the extra mile. Actually, whereas job satisfaction would be their needs and desires are being fundamentally met. So thank you, Sujay. How do the concepts of job satisfaction and employee engagement influence each other? We've heard a bit of insight already from Jacely.
Yeah. So, I pretty much concur with what Jacely said, because engagement is at a higher level. It is deeply driven by trust, in terms of, do I trust my manager? Do I trust my organization to do the right thing by me and by society as large? Do I trust the organization to take my interests in mind and provide me opportunities, fair opportunities for development, fair opportunities to grow my skills? So that's the larger aspect. But job satisfaction is also important because today the work I do has to be meaningful. The way the work is structured has to be something that I enjoy doing, right? The ecosystem and the support mechanism that I have with regards to the job or the role that I do has to be such that it enables me to perform to my optimal level. What is the type of engagement and collaboration that I have with my peers to get this role or job done, because we don't work in isolation. So those elements constitute to how I feel about the current work that I do. And I think that has a large percentage to play in my overall experience with work and my level of engagement. So organizations thus have this concept wherein they allow employees the opportunity to have rotation in terms of the work that they do, so that they're able to understand the working environments and job constructs within the same function or within other functions. But like Jacely said, employee engagement is at a much higher level, where the employee strives to do more and strives to give back more and strives to refer this organization within his or her family and circle of friends as a place to be in and work for. So it's at a higher level. Job satisfaction is a huge percentage of that engagement level.
Thank you, Sujay. From uh, if we look at ambitious employees, driven employees, they would be investing in their personal success. But Jacely, how would you motivate employees to play a part directly in organizational success?
Okay, if I would like to link the employee experience back to the organization success, I think in summary, it is the combinations of culture, technology, and physical work environments. So to make employee have the skin in the games to embed the employee experience or to make the company success is the communications and enablements through sharing or embed the company purpose, brand, and cultures alignments with the employees. I think like what Sujay also mentions, the purpose and the sense of the purpose, why are we doing it, is very important. And likewise, why the business exists. The business doesn't exist just for profit. An employee may not necessarily just wanted to work for a company that is a profit driven, because if a company just strictly focusing on profit, they will do all out to take a cut of employee well-being or employees experience. So the purpose is going beyond like how can we change the environments or be part of the bigger society that an organization exists to help to solve certain problems in be it work environment or be it the customer's environment. So the company purpose and the brand itself play a very important part to inspire the employee. And therefore in FBSG, we also play a lot, we also place a lot of emphasis in the employee voice and feedback, because we believe that when people grow, they will grow the business, because business will never grow by itself without people. And their commitment and passions, that is the key that's make the difference in growing the business and helping the business to be success. Because once the employee feel that they have the games in the play, they know there is something for them in terms of the outcome that is going to impact the end user, and that's where they feel that this is going to be available. If you tell them that you do this and the company become profitable and you get a bonus, okay, maybe to a certain extent, yes, they will do it. But the important element of human is about the heart. Once you win their heart, then I like that there's a saying, when you win their heart, they will strive and they will strive for you. So this is all about engaging and winning their heart. In FBSG context, our employee engagement is replicated after the customer's experience, which is we are using the Woo Wow Win strategies. So take for instance, in my organization, we promote a customer-centric culture, which is CX. And this is the experience-based, experiential cultures base that we wanted to advocate. So likewise with that, we also translate into an employee experience. And through the whole employee experience, we get employee involvement. I think the key here is by having employee to co-design is very important. So what we did was we have a programs called Brilliant Basic to Magic Moment. So it ties back to the customer experience. So we want employees to understand that how do we create a sense of brilliant, but it's only basic. Magic is a feeling. So this is how we advocate for the woo wow win. And with this concept, we invite our employee as part of the employee experience committee to co-design the employee experience journey, so which is the whole employee life cycles. So with that, the each of the departments, they send like minimum 1 or 2 employees to be part of the employee engagement committee. They look at the whole employee life cycles. Where can they play a part in driving the thrive component? You know, even like, for example, they say, woo, how do we woo a candidate to make them feel that, wow, Fujifilm is a company that we want to join. So we woo them. So when we woo them, they become our employee. We want to wow them with our culture, our warmness, our people, our experience. And then we engage our people through the whole employee life cycles so that we can win their heart. So win their heart so that they see their opportunity of growth is not about contributing to the profit, but contributing to their personal growth. And therefore, in Fujifilm, our management always says we grow the people. We don't say we grow the business, we grow our people. And this essence is of the whole culture. It also gives the employee the voice. Because in our committee, the CX committee, they are not just the representative of each department, they are also the ambassador. Because they co-design the employee life cycle, not just employee life cycles, even the culture itself. Even they say, okay, what can we do to engage employee remotely while we are doing hybrid? So they come up with series of ideas, and then we share, and we increase the employee engagement through various ideas. Like we have a regular what's it called? Employee a huddle. Sorry, we have a regular huddles by departments. So each department, they will come up with certain games just to engage employee, not necessarily about work. So this is the idea that will be shared around. So to create the culture of belonging, to create the distance of understanding, and through the game itself, people feel that I get to know you better, because it can be a simple games like know who am I. Then they will do some quiz, do some games. So in order to break that distance issues. So that is part of the whole cultures, and having the fun and the fun factors, or the engagement factors, or the belonging factors. The other part of it, which I have mentioned earlier, which is the employee life cycle. Because the committee will sit in to say that, how do we welcome new hire, and making new hire feel they are part of us, especially during pandemic. We don't even see the candidate in real life until the time when the government lifted the safety measures. Then we suddenly get to see the persons in person, knowing the shape and size. Through visual, you don't know the shape and size, right? So the whole committee itself, they come together and says, okay, what can we do? Apart from just sending them laptop or getting them come on the office on the day one, and that's it. But the whole committees make the employee engagements more live, because HR know nuts until the ground people feel it. And we engage new hire very frequently through we have onboarding exercise, not onboarding, we have onboarding survey every it's quite regular. I don't remember exactly the day, but I know that my business partner will have a session to follow up. The department head will follow up. So there'll be a regular fixed sessions, because we have onboarder, which is automated employee engagements tools that help us to constantly engage these people, so that we are not lost touch. So the whole employee experience itself will give the employee the empowerment, and they feel that they are part of the organization's success, and therefore they will strive more to to not just not just about the work itself, or not just about delivering the work, but to have an experiential needs that they find, the company care for me, I'm known, the MD also knows me. So the kind of and the kind of wow, the kind of win is what we are aiming towards. This is what we do.
So it's woo, wow, and win.
Win.
Correct?
Yes.
I like that in order to engage employees better, you actually put employees into a committee that co-designs the whole experience.
Yeah.
So, Sujay, how would you define employee experience? What are the key performance measures that you would recommend to track its effectiveness?
Sorry, I was on mute. I love what Jacely said, in terms of stepping into the shoes of the employees and planning their journeys. So, what becomes very important is when organizations look at customers, when Jacely said, we focus a lot on the customer journeys and the experiences they have at every point. And, what are the fail points and how can we make it better? And how can we differentiate our brand into that experience and journey? So it becomes equally important to do this with employees. And we have at SAP SuccessFactors, we have something called the moments that matter in an employee's life cycle or a journey in an organization. Jacely talked about hiring. It starts even during the period where you're interviewing people, candidate. So what does the candidate journey look like? What's the new joinee journey look like? What does the journey look like if there is a life event in the employee's day-to-day activities? It could be a personal life event or an organizational life event. So I think what becomes very important is to understand what is the sum total of experiences an employee has, or when they're doing their job, or when they're consuming various policies. It could be HR policies, finance policies, policies regards to me buying a laptop or a mobile phone. What is the sum total of all these aha moments, as Jacely put it? That, in a way, in a nutshell, defines the employee experience. And the best way to do it is use the same concepts and methodologies such as design thinking, journey mapping into the life cycle of an employee, and then see where do I infuse high touch, where do I infuse high tech, how do I provide a digital experience. So Fujifilm, is one of my favorite brands for certain products, right? And Jacely knows about this. I share a deep passion with the brand. So it's all about that aha moment as a consumer, and I think that same attention to detail has to be brought in-house when it comes to dealing with employees. Now, the good question you asked me is, how do you measure, right? Engaged employees do a few things. They do more. They say good things about the organization and the brand in an external forum, and they also refer more like-minded people into the organization. So some of the measures you could use are early attrition rate, because that's when the maximum dissonance or lack of employee experience happens. Employees who leave within the first 6 months. So early attrition rates for new joinees, high potential attrition rates, folks who you think are high potential but they don't feel valued, or they don't feel that they have opportunities to demonstrate potential. It could be normal attrition rates. You could measure inter organization transfer rates. Are you transferring employees within various departments, so you're giving them an opportunity for growth, which leads to employee engagement. Internal promotion rates. So how many open position internally that you have, you're using internal candidates for promotions. So that shows that the organization cares for your career development, has given you an opportunity, and for you to leverage that opportunity, the right development avenues were available to you. Some organizations also go to measure unscheduled absenteeism and leave rates, that shows a certain amount of disengagement. Manufacturing organizations also measure accident rates, because employees who are not engaged, are low, disengaged, also have avenues for getting into accidents and stuff like that. So how do you mitigate that? So we could use a number of measures, and it's critical to use these measures to link it back to success, to demonstrate value to the business as well. So I hope I answered that question. Long-winded, but I hope I answered it.
Not at
Rachel.
all long-winded. Yep.
Jacely,
Jacely.
if I may want to add also, because I did a lot of measurements. So when we start off this journey for to measure the whole employee life cycles, what we did was we map out starting from recruitment, onboarding, performance, development, wellness, rewards, talents, career, which is what Sujay said. He's absolutely right. Like measuring even down to the number of people who do internal transfer, promotions, and even down to exit. So exits, you can even measure like the alumni or become the ambassadors to say good things, become your net promoters. With that, so how we essentially do in Fujifilm is we first look at the whole employee life cycles and then stage it by 3 levels. First is, do we even have data? Because what gets measures gets improved and get tracked. Because if you don't have the measurements, you are not able to track your success. Because in HR, there's many initiatives that we roll out. We roll out engagement, we roll out new onboarding process, we roll out like career development program. We roll out a lot of things. But then again, how do we know that we made progress? How do we know that we have achieved certain milestone? So with the 3 level of stages is, number 1, data availability. Any initiative that you do, make sure that there is a data. And number 2, the process. Whether or not your process is robust enough. Let's say you take how many days to fulfill, or let's say the process what is the take-up rate? Even your raw systems, whether or not people are utilizing the system, or they just came to HR, ask a simple question, how many days leave I have? So which the process itself can be told that whether or not are we always success in providing the experience that employee would like to do self-service. And in the 3rd level, which is a progressive stage. So once you get through, you will know that data availabilities, processes, and the progressive stage is where you will be able to see a holistic measurements of efficiency, effectiveness, and then the impact to the organization. When I say impact to the organization, it's the end outcome of how you could measure the employee and the effectiveness of the employee engagement through productivity, market shares, employee engagement score, or even the quality and customer experience. Because all these are interconnected. We always say happy employee, happy customers. So all this we're encompassing what we are. In terms of efficiency, is about doing the right thing. Effectiveness is about doing the right things. So doing things right, efficient. Doing the right things is effectiveness, and that gives you the result of the impact. So to make a success measurement, this is a metric that we can leverage on.
I'm going to take it forward, Jacely, because my next question is also for you.
Okay.
What are some strategies for empowering employees to move from, say, job contentment to authentic engagement?
Wow, you have asked the right questions that I published this article some times ago. Let's just put what is job containment. So job containment is essentially job satisfactions, and this can be achieved when an employee feels motivated with external factor like I said earlier, which is the salary and benefit. Whereas engagement can only occur when employee has a deeper source of motivations. Therefore, they can contribute to the organization's success and with the shared visions and values. So in Fujifilm's business innovations, perhaps to have an authentic engagement, a holistic employee engagement equations to come in. So which is culture, technologies, and environment. So in my company, how we use this concept is through 4E strategies. So E, which is engage, enable, empower, and energize. Okay, so for engagement, it's about deepen the team's connections with a heartfelt trust that we have their best interest in mind. Then enable, because we need to enable them with the tools, the resources, and the skills for them to be success in their jobs. And empowerment is about building trust with a sense of ownership, autonomy, and to realize their full potential. And lastly, which is energize, because once they feel engaged, enabled, and empowered, the energize is to inspire and motivate the employee to perform their absolute best. So essentially, the engagement is to include or to include employee to have their voice heard in the organization. So that's when you involve the employee in the journey, they feel more connected and be accounted with the outcome. So that is the key success of engage, because once they feel that they're engaged, they become more motivated and sales driven. So having a workforce that is energized and engaged is an integrated part of running a successful business. As you may know, that employee will struggle or to stay engaged if they have a low level of energy or there's no vested interest in the company. So to lift the energy, we can even do a celebration with a small victory. So focus on opportunity rather than problems or things that's beyond us. Like we can look at opportunities to build success rather than being tied on to the things that is beyond us. So putting efforts in ensuring employee that is energized and engaged is essentials, because if you implement those strategy, employee will become more energized and they begin to reap the benefits of having more belonging and engaged and more productive workforce. But then again, I also need to qualify the empowerment also sparks the sense of autonomy and opportunity for the employees to be more responsible and accountable. But as we all know, the employee experience agenda may have just started from HR, right? But now it has spanned beyond just HR, but down to IT, facilities, health and safety, even facilities or finance and legals. Is all around of the organization. So all these functions become part of the day-to-day employee experience. So the employee experience is no longer just the whole employee life cycles, but the engagement of the cross-department, cross-functional, so that it become part of the whole organization's values and belief. So I would say that to make things more successful and to see the real benefits of whole employee empowering is to involve the whole functionals beyond just HR itself.
Thank you, Jacely. When you speak about the 4 E's, would you recommend, for instance, for organizations that are just starting out to take it step by step, or are the 4 E's automatically integrated when you begin a shift like that?
Yeah. I would say at least engagement and enablement is a starting point, because once you engage, because this is wholehearted engagement, right? Then you must have the tools. Because you engage them, they don't have the tools. It's also a struggle.
Yeah.
But once they have the tools, they feel empowered. Okay, wow, I can do it. I can sell service. I can come up with ideas. I feel the ownership. I can bring the full potential of myself. Once they do that, they will see the energizing part, which is to inspire them to go extra and beyond.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
For you, Sujay, how is the focus on employee experience today transforming the whole of HR?
I think Jacely just answered that question in the earlier question. No, but just to add to what she said, right? So if we step back for a minute, and see today, businesses are undergoing transformation. They're focusing on, agility and ability to transform quickly, right? If you see, work in itself is going through change. The construct of work is changing, the constituents of work are changing. Work is today remote, virtual, digital. If you look at the ecosystem that we all are in today, there is a lot of dependence on partners. There's a lot of uncertainty caused by the pandemic. If you look at it from the employee's perspective, employees want to be today connected to the purpose of the organization. There's a need for transparency. Given the great resignation, there's a focus on opportunity, career development. We have so much of proliferation in social media today, that social issues such as diversity, inclusion, social inequalities of, let's say, income opportunities, all this weigh heavily on the minds of employees, who want to look for what is the culture of the organization, what opportunities will I have if I join. So the employees mindset, the demographics, the thought process has changed. Given all these elements today, HR has to relook at the way they connect, inform, engage with employees, with partners, with internal stakeholders, in a digital environment. How do you do this in a digital environment? How do you connect, inform, and engage digitally? So hence, HR teams today, I think the change that we see is that they're focused on agility. How do we cater to business needs quickly? So if you look at that, then the speed for policy execution needs to increase. And this is enabled by, rapid digitalization, because you can only scale with digital. And in order to do this, like Jacely said, data availability becomes very important. Now, whether it is decisions with regards to, do I let employees carry forward leave or not? How do I increase benefits eligibility? What do I cover with regards to additional coverages, keeping the pandemic in mind? All these HR practice decisions or policy decisions, compensation, rewards, recruitment, hiring, all that has a monetary implication, right? It affects some budget somewhere. So hence, data and insights are very important to be able to do scenario modeling and take these decisions. So data and the requirement of data has become ever more important than it's ever been, right? Then I think the way HR is changing today is listening to what Jacely say about, the focus on employee experience, the focus on giving employees, experiences equal to, if not sometimes better than, what the end customers have in mind. So that seems to be also changing and evolving rapidly. So to summarize 4 areas, right? HR is getting more digital, agility is increasing, they're focusing a lot more on employee experience, and last but not the least is the entire partnering and stakeholder engagement, whether it's IT, whether it's finance, has never been stronger than we see it today. So I think that's some of the areas that HR has changed given the last 24 months that we've been in.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sujay. Before I head on to our parting shot, the last question, I want to turn our attention to the audience questions coming in. We have a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the first question for Jacely as our opener. This one is from Vinita. I love Jacely's analogy on experiencing from the heart. I also want to ask, how can we create an experience which is personalized to each person, especially in a hybrid work setup? Jacely, would you like to take a crack at this one?
Okay. So, hi, Vinita. Since you asked a question about personalized, so who's the person? I guess this is the best answer to you now. So, personalized is also mean what do the persons want. So, of course, sometimes we may not be able to cater like customize, but personalize. In the technology world, personalized, it can be like based on AI. because AI will understand how a person's work and how a person's will the preferred tools or preferred information. So these are the personalized. I think a lot of time people are confused between personalized and customized. How do we customize to make a person happier? But in the context of reality, where manager and employee engagement perspective is one-on-one. Like, because when you say personalized is where you need to understand the person's need. So the constant engagement and the constant communication is necessary. That's why remember that earlier I says onboarding. So if you done the onboarding well, understands the new hire feel and their thought and their feedback, so there is available information on the personalizations already. So with that, you'll be able to cater to their needs of the able to cater their needs of what they want in order to fill the gaps. So I hope that I answered the questions, because be it hybrid or even physical environment, it's about engagement, it's about communication, it's about knowing the person in person in order to know what is needed as a personal level.
Thank you, Jacely. Our next question is from Bianca. Perhaps, Sujay, you can take a crack at this one. What are some ways we can get the C-suite and leadership support on some experimentative EX strategies?
Yeah. So when we see EX strategies, right, it could be a number of strategies that we have. But what needs to be first understood is there has to be total alignment top down, that the focus on employee experience today is not an option. Right? It is given. It has to be there, given what is happening around us, and if you want to stay competitive with talent in today's marketplace. So most of these activities that we talk about employee experience stems from the fact of how do we digitally engage, how do we connect, how do we personalize, all what we've spoken about. And this has to become a practice. These are not projects, these are cultural elements and shifts. So this has to be adopted across the organization, and like any other transformation initiative, these have to be blessed by leadership teams across the company and across geographies. And how do we make this a reality is, like Jacely was mentioning about townhouses, huddles, having employee touch bases, regular sentiment analysis and dipstick surveys to see how effective certain policies or programs are. And slowly but steadily, this has to be an organization-wide drive, adopted by leaders, managers, and individual employees as well. So, it's not experimentative anymore. This is reality, and we have to start somewhere. And if the question is where do we start, the easiest way to start is by giving employees a voice. So we are all used to conducting annual engagement surveys or engagement surveys once in 2 years. Now, is there a way we can give employees a voice on a regular basis to understand what they feel and think? Only if we know that, then can we start bridging the gap and talking about experience. So that's the easiest way to start.
If I may want to add, the simplicity is to set the KPI at the CC level. In my organization, when we emphasize a lot about employee engagement, but then before it was become an employee experience, we make sure there is a KPI to everyone down from the GM, which is the MD direct reports, to every employee. So everyone have the role to play. And with all the employees, that employee experience is not manager responsibility, it's everyone's responsibilities. So for everyone to be part of it, so that the whole engagement or the experience will change. So that's for to get the C-suite level to support the strategy is to be part of everyone's KPI, so that everyone will support the whole initiative.
you get what you measure, right? So
Yeah. By the way, I just recall about the questions that Vanita mentions about personalizations. So I remember that one of the personalizations that you could do for, I mean, this is a live examples in the hybrid setup was, I think during the the onboarding, before onboarding, I'm sure that the business partner will have engaged with the candidate or the to-be employees, right? Of all the interests. You know, the interest is not just about your work. It's not about your work experience. It's down to the personal interest. Like the persons might likes to do cooking or has an hobby of soccer. So they kind of personalize um, like you know the persons beyond work, but the engagements at the personal level. So then, because we know who in our committees have the same common interest, so tie them up with these personalizations. And even, you know, sometimes we have remote hybrids games or setup. That's where you know where to map the personalizations with the right people, because you can form an interest group. So this is something that you may also want to consider as
yeah.
part of the experience.
Yeah, and just to add to what Jacely said, everything that we do, it has to be scalable. Now, interest groups have to be, in a collaborative platform manner, so that you can collaborate across. Now, we are not talking about single location companies. We're talking about global companies. So how do like-minded people
Yeah.
globally come together, form a community? So digitalization is unavoidable today. You have to use that to scale. So that's a beautiful example on building personalized collaborative communities, but it has to scale.
Yeah.
Our next question is very specific. This one is from Moriarty. How can we make the return to work worth it for employees? Jacely, would you like to start us off?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
How can we make the return to the office worth it for employees?
Okay, returns to work worth. I think first of all is how conducive the environment is for them to feel excited to go back to work, right? I think these days a lot of people experiencing Zoom fatigue or online fatigue. So why don't create an environment that get people come back to have some camaraderie or have lunch together to build back the sense of belonging. So I was surprised that if you say that let's come back for lunch, they will resist, right? So something to entice them to feel that yeah, it's worth for them to come back. It's not just for the work that need to be physical there, but is the pantry chat that we miss, is the lunch that we miss, is the relationship or the bonding that we miss. So some of the things that you may want to bring back, which is to re-emphasize the values of working together, the values of having face-to-face. Because most of the time, I believe in a lot of organizations, when we do Zoom meetings or even team meeting, we don't get to see their face. People are just don't on their cameras. So perhaps it's time to get them to, hey, come back. Let's do some team activity together physically. So that made them feel that, okay, there is a sense of purpose for them to be present, and make an attempt that so long as they come back to office, have a chair, have a coffee with them physically, so to
Yeah.
keep the life of the work going. I hope that answers your questions.
Our next question is from Kang Yong. The burnout crisis is also big. The great resignation or great reshuffle is far from over. Employees are ready to quit without any other job in hand. How can you respond to these phenomena? Sujay, would you like to?
Yeah, so I guess there's no denying the fact that the amount of uncertainty in the last 24 months, and the lack of this presenteeism culture. 24 months before, we were all present in office. All of us knew what was happening. We knew who was talking to who, what was happening. The office grapevine was active. Now you move away from this, you're working remotely. There is this huge fear of missing out, right? We don't know what's happening, what opportunities are there, who's leveraging these. So I think the best way to prevent burnout is to address the fact that there could be burnout, provide employees a safe channel, a confidential channel to be able to voice these out within the channels available. The companies have started hotlines where you could call and have a chat. There are checklists that companies have started to see early signs, whether you're going through a burnout. Sometimes it could be also the fact that you've not been able to take vacation for a long time because the job requires you to be on call. What are the policies for allowing these employees to carry forward a bunch of their leave and take it together at a point in time? Or it could be providing these employees a fellowship, a 6 months activity, or a job rotation opportunity to do something completely different, because a lot of companies had a hiring freeze. So there was this need to manage headcount. So providing employees an opportunity to do something different, so that you move away from the rut that you're in, experience something different, recharge, and then come back to the role. A lot of the burnout was caused by mental challenges, a strain on our mental well-being. And here it becomes critical to kind of understand what are the solutions that HR has constituted for you to be able to cope with these mental well-being issues and challenges. So opportunity, a voice to be heard, an opportunity to be heard, doing something different, and knowing that the organization is there for you, is concerned for you, and is willing to listen to you, prevents people from leaving because of burnouts, because that's the easiest thing to do, is just to leave, right? So and a lot of employees are doing that without a job in hand because they just want to stop doing what they're doing. So I think once you provide them these avenues, it makes things a lot better for the employees.
Jacely?
You want to add on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, we have 8 minutes to go. We have last question. Would you want to move on to the last questions?
Yep.
I don't want to
Perhaps
miss
we
the last
can connect the whole experience to this last question that we have. What would be your advice to employers who want to give their employees a better workplace experience?
employee best workplace experience. I think the best workplace experience is also depend on how the individuals perceive, right? But of course, it's important that the culture, technology, and the physical space make an impact to the employee experience. Because in absence of all these three, it's almost um, like three legs tools. So it's going to fall apart. So in summary, I think that to make a better workplace experience is to involve employees in the core design of the whole employee life cycle journeys, be it just the whole employee life cycle journeys, but also the transformations, and also how can we work together beyond the process. So I think the employee life cycle itself also part of the HR policy where employees should have voice into it. So by designing the process, it's just a baby step to the whole journeys. Whereas we know that the whole world is constantly changed. Like even Sujay mentions that the world is evolving. So it's a constant effort to make sure that the continuous involvement and the continuous engagement from the employees, they have voice to say in the whole process, in the whole life cycles, that will make a lot of difference in making an employee feel that they are part of it. They feel that they owns it, and they feel that this is their legacy. It's important that we let employee feel the empowerment that I'm here to create a difference. It's not that I'm here to follow the way that you want me to be. So this
Yeah.
is where I see the shift and change and the growth of the future state.
Thank you. Sujay, your parting shot.
Yeah. So, small short formula. CX is equal to EX and EX is equal to CX, right? So if you want happy customers, you'll have to have happy employees. And it's a very symbiotic relationship, right? And today we innovate, we co-create, we crowdsource, we do R&D, everything associated with keeping our customers happy. I think the same thing in the same intensity has to be replicated for our internal customers who are our employees, and that involves stepping into their shoes, planning along with them, and making them part of the exercise to differentiate my experience today between entity A and entity B. Because like everything, talent is also of short supply. If you don't do it, somebody else will do it. So if you don't provide me a good customer experience, somebody else will. So it's the same things for employees as well. So EX is equal to CX and vice versa.
Thank you. So, thank you to both Jacely and Sujay for sharing your invaluable insights to our audience. Thank you also to everyone who sent in their questions. To our audience, stay tuned to the series because in episode 3, we are going to discuss the power of data to enhance HR practices. So, again, thank you, Jacely and Sujay. This has been Rachel Reynosa. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rachel.